Dobar dan. That means good day. This is TalkCast PDX. You can find us on the web, talkcastpdx.com. Name of the show is The Bogdanich Perspective. That's splattered all over YouTube, Spotify, wherever under the name The Bogdanich Perspective. I'm your host, Paul Bogdanich, and welcome. Title of today's show is Income and Outlays. Wake up every morning and kind of wonder where I am sometimes. Read the news and just kind of have to squint and make sure that, just like, am I reading this? Seems very odd. The Olympics are over. There's the great show. Well, the athletes are great. I didn't think the show was that great. I thought it was kind of sterile, but there was a race last week. The men's 4x100 meter relay. Depends what kind of person you are. If your favorite race is watching Secretariat win the Belmont Stakes by 25 lengths and setting a track record that still exists to this day, then that's not the race for you. But if you like it where equally talented horses are coming nose to nose into the wire, it is just a fabulous race. The men's 4x100 relay, it's a real good watch. The employment report came out, and this was last Friday. Headline numbers on the report were 943,000 jobs created, with the employment rate dropping from 5.9 to 5.4%. The report came out Friday morning, so it was in Saturday's Wall Street Journal. The headline from Saturday's Wall Street Journal was "Job Gain is Best in Nearly a Year." Okay, the article was 22 paragraphs long. 7 paragraphs went on and on about the Delta variant. The first paragraph in the article read, quote, "A strengthening U.S. labor market added cushion to the economic recovery in July ahead of a surge in cases of the coronavirus's Delta variant, with employers creating jobs at the best pace in nearly a year and the unemployment rate falling sharply," unquote. That's a run-on sentence, not a paragraph. I find it painful to read. I think that a decent copy editor could have simply changed it to "A strengthening U.S. labor market added cushion to the economic recovery in July ahead of a surge in coronavirus Delta variant cases, period. Employers created jobs at the best pace in nearly a year, and the unemployment rate fell sharply, period." But apparently they can't afford a copy editor over there. As far as modern press goes, it was a good article. The authors, there were 2 of them, found ways to insert a variety of information in the report that were not the headline numbers. And that's doing good. Not this last week, but the week before that, the GDP report came out. I kind of did the same analysis on the GDP report. But that one did not find a way. That article did not find a way to integrate any of the other information. But these 2 gentlemen mentioned, they mentioned the headline numbers, which are 943,000 jobs created and the unemployment rate dipping from 5.9 to 5.4%. They mentioned the market reaction to the report. They mentioned the May revision. They mentioned that leisure and hospitality as a group totaled 380,000 jobs. They mentioned the number of job openings. They mentioned the number of jobs required to get back to pre-pandemic employment levels. They mentioned that a very large number of teachers were hired during the month. They mentioned the number of jobs currently available, and they mentioned that 261,000 new entrants came into the job market because of population growth, which happens every month, about 200, in between 200 and 230,000 a month, roughly, by population growth. So good article as far as, that is concerned. Speaking of which, not last week, but the week before that, the GDP report came out, and there was another write-up in the Wall Street Journal. The first paragraph from that GDP report read, The U.S. economy grew rapidly in the second quarter and exceeded its pre-pandemic size, but the outlook has suddenly turned cloudier due to the fast-spreading Delta coronavirus variant, period. Again, a run-on sentence, but never mind all that. In the GDP report, they used the verbiage Delta coronavirus variant. In the employment report, they used the verbiage coronavirus's Delta variant. It's clunky language. Wouldn't come up in conversation or in good writing. It has to be an editorial requirement. In other words, the editors instruct them that when they write these articles to frame it within the rubric of this broader narrative. And all the press is like that, pretty much. And if you just read it at face value, it will cloud your mind. Everything that went well, they tried to show how the Delta virus could impede the progress. Everything that went poorly, they tried to blame directly or indirectly on the Delta variant. The broader points of the narrative that exist in no matter what press you read, but all these editors are in collusion and they've agreed to a narrative, and the logical points of the narrative: mitigating the disease equals herd immunity. You have to get to herd immunity to mitigate the disease. The only way to get to herd immunity is universal vaccination, and that the vaccines are completely safe and effective. All three of those points have been shown false for a number of different reasons, but they're still continuing, not the least of which was this study that was formally released on August 6th from the CDC. They leaked it into the media when it wasn't a formal report, but the formal study came out on August 6th. Some outbreak up in Massachusetts, 369 or some odd people got infected. 74% had been fully vaccinated with a mean time since vaccination of 86 days. So, so you can scratch vaccines are safe and effective. That's not the case. They're more medicinal in nature. Their only benefit is they reduce symptoms. So they're a medicine. They're not a vaccine. But anyway, they function under the broad editorial controls. Under the broad editorial controls, they did a good job, I thought. Poorly written, as I say. We're going to do a little analysis on the numbers. I read the report instead of taking their word for it, right? And I actually read the report, as I do with these things. The report had some other good information that I think, there are 2 points that I think that they should have mentioned, but they don't, because they don't want to focus the population's attention on this generally, because sometimes these numbers go bad. But the average number of hours worked in a week for a full-time employees, they track that. That number was 34.8 hours a week, which was unchanged from May. The average hourly wage went up to $30.54 an hour, which was up 11 cents. And I personally think that those two numbers are just as meaningful as the headline numbers, the 943,000 jobs created and the falling unemployment rate. The way the report is structured, they have broad groups. Leisure and hospitality is a group. Within leisure and hospitality, they have categories, subcategories. And I went and read the employment report paying attention to the categories instead of the groups. And I noticed that the top 16 categories account for 95%, 94.9% to be exact, of the 943,000 jobs created. And those categories, which are a little more specific than groups, were food services, 253,200 employees, average wage $16.85 an hour. Teachers, 220,700, average wage $34.93 an hour. Before continuing, if we take those two categories, food service at 253,200 and teachers at 220,700, they equal more, just slightly, more than 50% of the 943,000 jobs created. But continuing on with our categories, hotel and motel employees, 73,700 jobs at $13.27 an hour. Arts and entertainment, 53,000 jobs at $29.64 an hour. The problem with those jobs is if you're a performer, you don't have a gig every day. So it's on and off. But, it's progress. Social assistants, 46,800 jobs at $17.78 an hour. Professional and technical positions, 42,700 jobs at $38.31 an hour. Rental and leasing agents, 30,300 jobs at $16.51 an hour. Delivery drivers, Amazon, Uber, et cetera, 26,900 jobs at $16.39 an hour. Finance and insurance, 26,300 jobs at $34.81 an hour. And then there's 7 different categories below that in between 20,000 and 14,000 jobs. And those are waste services, hospitals, post office, motion pictures and sound production, membership associations, laundry services, auto service, and gas stations. The average wage for the jobs created in June, including the teachers, was $24.58 an hour. If you take the teachers out of the calculation, the rest of the jobs were at $21.19 an hour. In going through the categories, I assembled a list. It's a convenience list. It's by no means complete. It's just ones that I picked of positions that were not hiring or who even had slight decreases in employment. No major decreases, but no increases. They were not hiring. And those include architecture and design, $46 an hour. Business services, $46 an hour. Chemicals, $30 an hour. Communications, $41 an hour. Computer systems, $49 an hour. Light construction, wood frame, that kind of thing, $27 an hour. Heavy construction, $67 an hour. And that's the purpose of the infrastructure bill that was just passed through Congress this morning, I note. What they're trying to do is throw money at it to create, that's a high-wage job, $67 an hour. So, bridges, dams, roads, power plants, those kinds of things. So heavy construction, $67 an hour. Electronics, $32 an hour. Legal services, $43 an hour. Manufacturing, starting wage, if you're union, it's a good gig. If not, no. But $16 an hour. Mining and logging, $22 an hour. Motor vehicle repair, mostly, $22 an hour. Oil and gas, drilling, exploration, that kind of thing, $50 an hour. Plastic and rubber products, $37 an hour. Textiles, $25 an hour. And wholesale trade, $37 an hour. And if you take the average wage of those jobs, it turns out to $36.70 an hour compared to $24.58 for the entire list for June, or $21.19 an hour without the teachers. But the problem is that those industries are not hiring. The jobs that were created, sans teachers, was at $21.19 an hour. If we take that $21.19 an hour and we multiply it by what the report told us were the average weekly hours, that's 34.8. So we multiply 21.19 times 34.8 times the number of weeks in a year, which is 52.14 or something. That gives us an annual gross pay of $38,500, approximately. If we take that $38,500 and subtract 20% of it for taxes, which I think is reasonable. 8% comes off the top for payroll taxes, and that leaves 12 for federal, state, and local. So I think that's a reasonable estimate. And we take that, we take the annual wage of 38,500, subtract 20%, divide it by 12. We come up with an approximation of monthly take-home pay of $2,560 a month for a job that pays $21.19 an hour. The difficulty with that, I went and looked, not in the report, I had to get a separate source, but the average rent on a one-bedroom apartment in the United States, average, is $1,620 a month. $1,620 is 63.25% of $2,560, which was our take-home pay. So if you get one of these $21.19 an hour jobs and you want to live in a one-bedroom apartment, 65% of your income goes to rent. I think that number is low. I note that the average rent on a studio apartment is $1,660 a month, which is more. I think the difference is that studio apartments tend to be built in high-density metropolitan areas and not out in the country where they have a lot of land. And so that the national average for rents that I'm quoting here underreports the actual cost in a metropolitan area. I note from the source that I got it from that they tell me the average two-bedroom rent for the nation is $1,900 a month. In my area, that's $2,400. But even if you take at the national average and you get one of these $21.19 an hour jobs, 63% of your gross take-home pay goes to rent. How did we get there? How did we get here? A long time ago, in a galaxy far away, if you went to a bank to buy a home, they would look at the home that you were going to buy, and they would take the price of the home plus the closing costs, and then they would subtract your down payment. And then they would add in the monthly cost of the taxes and the homeowner's insurance, which were included in the mortgage. And if that number was more than 30% of your income, they told you to increase your down payment or go find a cheaper home. For years, forever, like 100 years, in the United States, 30% was the cost of shelter, or and now it's running more than double that. How'd that happen? And the answer to that is this Fed money printing. $120 to $180 billion a month every day, every week, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week as we're sitting here, 180 to 180 billion. They've been doing it for 12 years now. Started in smaller amounts, of course, after the financial crisis. Then the politicians got addicted to essentially the free money, waged a bunch of wars trying to convert nations in the Middle East to democracy and freedom, spent $10 trillion, tried in 8 separate countries, not a single success, blood all over the walls, but spent $10 trillion doing it. Rose the national debt so high that they can't possibly increase interest rates, and the Fed keeps printing the money. And they have to have a distribution mechanism for the money, and their distribution mechanism is to increase what is called household wealth. And the two largest components to stimulate the economy, and I agree with them, increasing household wealth does stimulate the economy. But the two largest components of household wealth are the price of your home and your retirement assets, which all have to be in the stock market because the bond interest rates are 2%. And so all this money printing, in effect, after the government covers its borrowing, goes into real estate prices and the stock market. And it causes asset inflation. It increases the wealth gap. It causes societal difficulties. My point is, BlackRock Investment Management is the largest homeowner in the United States. In my area, they come in and they outbid a married couple on a home. And then the home sits there, no occupancy, because it's a financial asset, not a house. And the prices just keep going up. 2.1% a month, by the way, over the last 3 months is the average increase in rent. But anyway, I believe, or I think, that we're at the end of this. When you tell a guy, hey, there's a $21.19 an hour job for you right over there, go get one, and he's got to immediately turn around and pay 63% of it, for rent, that doesn't work. Does he need a car to get to this job? Does he have an appetite? Does he like to wear clothes? Does he, work to live or live to work? I mean, does he have any recreational expenses? These numbers don't work. We're at the end of this. Anything that can't continue on forever won't, and this will not. But they keep printing 120 to 180 billion dollars a month. What else do I have here? Oh, yes. The coronavirus logic points. Mitigating the disease, you have to have herd immunity. The only way to herd immunity is universal vaccination. The vaccinations are completely safe and effective. Two of which are false. We know now. We didn't know then, but that's still the narrative. They're sticking to it, and they put a lot of people out of work, and a lot of people got behind in rent or their house payments. When I say a lot of people, the only credible estimate that I've seen for that number is 12.7 million people in 5 million households or face a threat of eviction or foreclosure. That works out to 2.6 people per household. That works out to 2 million of these households, means they have at least one child. They imposed an eviction and foreclosure moratorium through the authority of the Center for Disease Control. The landlords sued, and the banks. And it went to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court issued a decision in June of this year, early June, quoting from the majority opinion. This is a quote from the majority opinion of the Supreme Court of the United States on whether it's legal to impose a rent moratorium because of the coronavirus. They said, quote, clear and specific congressional authorization will be necessary for the CDC to extend the moratorium past July 31st, 2021, end quote. The legal matter in front of the court, the court does not operate on equity. They judge the law. And the legal matter in front of the court is a rental contract or a home ownership purchase contract, is a private contract in between a lessor and a lessee or a home buyer and a bank. They concern real property, the use and enjoyment of which is defined by state law. But as a legal matter, does the Center for Disease Control, CDC, have the authority to negate arguably the largest single most important element of the contract, the payment for the use of the real property or ownership of the real property, as the case may be? And the court looked at that as a legal matter, not as a matter of equity or, what are we going to do about the pandemic, as a legal matter. And they said clear and specific congressional authorization will be necessary for the CDC to extend the moratorium past July 31st, 2021. As we all know, that did not happen. To our congressional leaders, and in one ear, out the other. Totally blew them off. Went on vacation, or adjournment, excuse me. Congressmen never take vacations. They go on adjournment for 7 weeks. They won't be back for 6 more. The people who sued last time when Biden tried to pull an end, the Biden administration, tried to pull an end run and tried to extend the moratorium through the CDC, sued the same day. He announced at 8 in the morning. They had the lawsuits filed by 4:30 in the afternoon. You'll start to get decisions on those. As a functional matter, it depends what circuit you're in, what state you're in, and all that stuff. But 13 million people in 5 million households. They're going to evict at least 3-4 million of those, at least. So what are you going to do about it? Well, they got this $21.19 an hour job. Go get one. Yeah, well, okay, even if I get one, I can still, I can pay current rent 65% of my income, but I can marginally pay it. But there's no way, that you're going to make up back rent on that. And it's just, like I said, but the other jobs that created an average wage of $36.70 an hour were not hiring. And they keep inflating the cost of the assets through this money printing. And it's I don't know how it's going to end out. In all probability, it won't be pleasant, in my opinion. Now let's go to the markets. And when we're in market mode, we could give a shit less about all that stuff. We don't care. All we care about is that, they keep printing that money and the value of my financial assets continues to go up, 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 right? That's what we care about. And the markets did go up. The unemployment report came out on Friday morning, and the markets rallied all day Friday. And they closed the week last Friday, 4,436.52 points, which was an all-time high. For the week, the markets were up 0.94%. So in our portfolios here, that means that we should have gained $940 for the week. Most of it on Friday, most of it on the employment report. We have 4 portfolios: the top 30 cap weight, which is the top 30 stocks in the S&P, which is more than half the value of all 550 stocks in the S&P. And then we have one portfolio where those are capitalization weighted. In other words, the bigger the company, the larger the investment. Or another portfolio where they're equal weighted, but the same 30 stocks. In other words, the largest 30 stocks in the United States, right, which represent more than half the value of the total index. And those portfolios, top 30 cap weight was up $1,045, and the top 30 equal weight was up $1,045. If you want to get particular, which I like to do, the top 30 cap weight was up $1,044.72. And the top 30 equal weight was up $1,044.79. A 7-cent difference in between the performance of 2 portfolios with functionally different stocks in each portfolio. The only difference, the only commonality being that they're all the top 30. They're all the largest companies in the United States. And so once again, there's, if you want to approximate the index, all the action is in the top 30 stocks. Anyway, if we go to the top 3 every if you just do that with the top 30 stocks, you wind up with no stocks in industrials, materials, real estate, or utilities, and only one energy company. Because the stocks, while big and important companies, don't make the list of the top 30. So to correct for that skew, we took all 11 sectors of the S&P and we got the top 3 stocks in every sector, 33 stocks. But it's still the largest stocks. It's just with a sector criteria instead of a capitalization criteria. That one went up $993 and against an expectation of $940. And then I have a discretionary portfolio that I manage, is not near as heavily weighted to the top 33 stocks, call it. And my portfolio only went up $194. If we look at the particulars in terms of the it was a slow week. I'm just going to go straight to, my hedges, by the way. I keep my portfolio hedged, but because the stocks traded basically in uniform In the top 30s, 23 were up, 7 were down. In the top 3 by every sector, 26 were up, 7 were down. In my portfolio, 8 were up, 11 were down, but marginally. Most of them below 1%. If we take all 54 stocks from all 4 portfolios and rank them, there were only 6 stocks that were up more than 3%, and that's Bank America, NVIDIA, which is on a tear forward, split their stock. It's a meme stock, retail participation, high popularity. JP Morgan rose 3.8%. Bank America rose 4.7%. So the financial stocks, generally speaking. Berkshire Hathaway rose 2.7%. So the financial stocks did well. NextEra Energy, which is a utility that concentrates on solar, was up 3.5%. Nike was up 3.2% on their shift to China. And S&P Global, which is an information concern, was up 3%. There were 5 other stocks that were up in between 2 and 3%, and that contains Berkshire Hathaway, Costco, Sherwin-Williams, Facebook, like that. 8 stocks that were up in between 1 but less than 2%. 19 stocks that were up, but up less than 1%. 10 stocks that were down, but down less than 1%. 4 stocks that were down more than 1%, but less than 2%. And only 2 stocks down more than 2%. And this is interesting. Visa and MasterCard are the only 2 stocks out of our 54, which contains all the largest companies. The only 2 stocks down more than 2%. They're identical businesses. The vast majority of their revenue is from credit and debit card clearing. Both down in unison, along with the other smaller companies in the space. Also put pressure on Apple because Apple has a business component that clears funds. The reason for that is what we mentioned out of the GDP report. During the quarter ended June 30th, 2021, personal income at the bottom half, call it, of society, decreased 22%, or $1.32 trillion over the quarter ended June 30th, 2021, principally because of reduced government benefits. And now you have 13 million people in 5 million households that are behind on the rent. The jobs that are being created are $21.19 an hour, and 1-bedroom rent is 63.25% of gross pay. But the markets are going up. At the current pace, they'll close the year right around in between 4,700 on the low, 4,900 on the high. It's another important thing to mention. When the Fed, if they ever do, they're coming under more pressure, so they're going to have to eventually. But if they ever decide to curtail this quantitative easing, as they refer to it, when they ramp it down or slow it down or stop it, everything's got its own special word in the financial markets, and they call that tapering. Before the Fed even before it even occurs to them to taper, to take money away from the highest elements of society, they talk about it for months in advance, tell you that that's what they're thinking about. Then they go into a meeting, and they come out of the meeting, and they say that we've agreed in principle to taper. They haven't done that yet, by the way. And then they say, or go into another meeting and say, well, we put a preliminary schedule to it. And they give you 3 months notice or 6 months notice. If it's September now, they'll tell you we're going to start in February, and we're going to draw it down by 20% over 24 months. Or a ramp. They create a ramp, and they don't do anything all at once, and they signal it in advance, and they give everybody plenty of time, and all that kind of thing. And that's how they, that's their policy. That's how they treat somebody else. If you're one of these 13 million people in 5 million household that might be behind on your rent or mortgage payment, the message is go get a $21.19 an hour job and pay up today. I'm not sure how that's going to work. I don't think it will. So I think they'll be under increasing pressure. I think that when Congress finally reconvenes, they'll be running around like chickens with their heads cut off. They didn't extend the debt limit before they left. They didn't address, Anyway, so we'll see. It should be interesting. But for the near term, until Congress does get back in session or something happens, like these governors go crazy because they finally realize the vaccine doesn't work and shut down the economy again, things should be okay and the market should be stable. But I'm maintaining my hedges because this can't continue. Just can't. I might be dead before it fails, but anything that can't go on forever won't. Who knows when it'll stop. This is Tuesday. Name of the show is The Bogdanich Perspective. Thanks for joining me. Come back next Tuesday. More analysis for you. The inflation reports come out this week, so I'll be able to talk about them next week, and then we'll have some hard numbers on inflation. And not just the headline news, some analysis. They tell you how many jobs, but what do they pay? I don't know why they leave that out of the report. I think, if they said average wage was, $24.58 with the teachers, I don't know why they don't put that in there, but they don't. Anyway, so find it here on Tuesday, The Bogdanich Perspective and WJ. That means goodbye.
I'm Dave Dahl, creator of Dave's Killer Bread, a well-known, against-the-odds success story. To give back, we built a podcast studio called TalkCast PDX, a state-of-the-art facility to produce your own podcast. TalkCast PDX is a place where every opinion is accepted. If you've ever thought about it, do it. Use your voice and make a difference at TalkCast PDX.